To a Personal Tao. Today we're going to talk about Quarterlife Crisis. You might be feeling disconnected and off. You might feel like you can't get unstuck. These are common symptoms of Quarterlife Crisis. And it is getting more and more common in today's times to have Quarterlife Crisis. Now don't confuse depression with Quarterlife Crisis. Depression is only a symptom of Quarterlife Crisis. So if you are having depression, we can help you get through the depression of Quarterlife Crisis. That's something we do help with. Now what Quarterlife Crisis is, comes out of the way we live in our psychology, it turns out. If you look at humans, we have 3/3 of life. The first third from 0 to 40 is our social third. It's when we want to fit in. It's when we raise our family. It's when we have our careers and jobs. The second third is from 40 to 80. That's when we become our own person. That's when we break free and out of society to do our own thing more. And then the last third, 80 to 120, is our spiritual third. It's when we focus on what survives us. So let's go back to the first third. It's the social third. We give up a lot of our power to fit in. In fact, the fashion industry is all geared against this truth. It sells you fashion to help you fit into your peers. It sells fashion so you can find a way to belong to others. And the fashion industry traps you into their fashion, and you're following someone else's beat rather than your own beat. That's how powerful this third is. People were taught to think of ourselves as individuals, and yet we give up a lot of power to fit in because we are social animals. We need to fit in. So we have to reconcile our need to fit in versus our individuality. And this is where Quarterlife Crisis comes in. Okay, if you were to look at Quarterlife Crisis, it's a modern ailment. If you go back in the literature, 20 years ago, you really didn't see Quarterlife Crisis in the literature at all. And all of a sudden, you see it everywhere. So what's happening? Why is it a modern disease? Well, it's not a disease. It's actually a social malady. And what's happening is the social system is breaking down. The social system is changing. And an interesting truth happens. About 10 years ago, I saw this happen in a deep way. The society began to reject the younger generation. It began to push them away, it began to push them out. And when the younger generation's pushed out, it creates depression. You don't feel like you fit in, you have problems. You internalize that pushing out as your own problem, and that becomes the Quarterlife Crisis. So the Quarterlife Crisis is a social malady. It's the society causing problems for you. And the question becomes, how do you fight through that? Now, because we make it personal, it doesn't feel like a social malady. It feels like there's something wrong with us because we're not fitting in. We feel depressed. We feel nothing we do quite works. We feel disconnected. But if you listen to those words, I feel disconnected. I feel like nothing I do works. I don't get ahead in my job. My relationship isn't quite feeling robust or alive. Those are all social challenges. It's not a personal disease. It's a social disease, it turns out. So the social rejection is actually the challenge that we're facing. We have to be willing to push through the problems of our society to create something new. The culture is changing right now, and the old system is actually breaking down. We are seeing something new evolve right now as we're speaking. And over the next 20, 30, 40 years, a whole new system is evolving. The world is coming together in a whole new way, and you are alive at a time to take advantage of that. And the system's trying to prevent you from doing so. So, become global, become proactive, become active in how you interact with others in your own life, and that will actually take away many of the symptoms. We help a lot of people go through this time. Life coaching can help you be more proactive, to see what's external rather than making it internal, to help give you creative ideas, to change up how you become an entrepreneur, to learn to be more aware through meditation. Meditation is just an active awareness process that you can use to navigate life with better. So there are a lot you can do to improve your life. Don't wait for change, because if you wait for change, you won't be happy because you'll be pushed out of change. That's the whole problem. There's less and less power because the power has been concentrated on the top. There's no surprise that Occupy Wall Street was from the younger generation. And Occupy Wall Street was shut down very aggressively by the older generation. So don't be afraid to create something new. Don't be afraid to be proactive and live better at that process. That is actually the cure to the Quarterlife Crisis. Living proactively, being your person, challenging yourself, Finding new groups. If you don't fit in, your job isn't being good to you, go get a new job. If your friends aren't quite helping you stay awake and feeling excited, expand your social network. This is really important. Don't go out on Facebook, go out in real life and really connect. So one of the challenges we have is it's easy to fall into consumption. It's easy to use the media and feel better by watching something, by playing a game, by talking to someone on Facebook. We need to be a little bit more proactive than that. We need to be physically connected and proactive in our communities because we're wired to want that. We're wired to want to be part of a family. We're wired to want to be part of something bigger. And when you've been disconnected from that bigger, it creates quarter-life crisis. And that's really what it's all about. Now, lots of times in quarter-life crisis, we do have relationship problems because you and your partner can be out of sync. Because when we turn inward to deal with this, we tend to disconnect from our closer relationships, ironically enough. So part of this is don't be passive in your relationship. Go out and play again. Be proactive with your partner. Expand and experience fun things with your partner. It's okay to change relationships. That's natural. Don't try to make your relationship last forever either. If your relationship is truly a good one, it will make it through the challenges of this time. But also be willing to play more. Be willing to be more proactive in your relationship. Now, push out of the norms. Just don't sit down and be quiet. Be a little bit more noisy. Be a little bit more challenging in how you explore and express your life. It will make you feel better. It will break you out of your depression. Now, one of the traps of quarter-life crisis is getting stuck in depression. Once you get stuck in depression, then you get stuck in this loop. And then people tend to take the medication. They tend to get stuck in this loop to keep them depressed. And it's harder to break out of depression than people realize. You can't just go out and be active. So if your quarter-life crisis has become more than a quarter-life crisis, it's actually become a full bout of depression, then you have to treat it as depression and you have to work through the depression symptoms as well. So there's kind of two stages to quarter-life crisis. The beginning stages where the malaise begins kicking in, you kind of relax down and you begin to not feel connected. And then the later stages where depression kicks in. So those are two different stages. So if you're in depression stage, yes, you do have to work harder at breaking out of the depression because then other factors could be coming into play. So quarter-life crisis can lead into deeper problems accidentally. So if you're feeling depressed, do contact us. We can help you work through the depression. If you're just feeling a malaise, if you're just feeling disconnected, again, we can help you connect. We can help you be creative. We can help you find new ways to break out of the old ways of doing life. Instead of just getting the normal 9-to-5 job, a lot of people of this generation are being entrepreneurs. A lot of people are breaking out of the norms. And in doing so, they're excited, they're inventive, they're rejuvenated, reinvigorated, and that breaks you out of the quarter-life crisis. But that isn't easy to do when society doesn't want you to break out. And society is kind of pushing it aside, and you have to ignore that being pushed to the side. You have to ignore all the violence being pushed down at you. You have to ignore the fear being pushed down on you because that actually keeps you disconnected. So turn off the media, make your own media, be your own media, connect with your friends and share and take control. That's the way this works. Don't let the answer come to you, be the answer yourself. Be the change, as the saying goes. So this is a very amazing time in your life to be proactive. So when you feel a quarter-life crisis, you can use it as a go light to activate your life. You can use it to push. And with all the students I work with, this is what we do. We turn it around by pushing into more exciting things. And then after about 6 months to a year, it kicks back into gear. It won't kick back into gear right away when you begin to push, because it's hard to push through that mud of malaise. It's hard to push through that being stuck in depression. So be willing to push through it. Don't look for outside stimulants like drugs to push you through, because then you get trapped in that loop. Push through by being creative, push through by being social, push through by being proactive, but gently step into that process, and then you'll discover a much better life. Please subscribe to our videos. It will help tremendously. And if you have any questions, do contact us. We're here to help you work through this challenging point. Don't worry about it. Rather, be proactive and be brilliant.